In this video, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace a lower ball joint in a Jeep Patriot, located in the lower control arms in the front of the vehicle. So with a 19mm socket, we're going to remove the tire. If your tire is frozen on, always put a lug nut back on partially by hand tight. Give it a bang. Okay, so 18mm wrench and socket. And I'm going to put the wrench on this side because the 1/2-inch gun, it's hard to get in here with the caliper right there. And I'll put the socket on the back side. Take that in the nut, set it aside. Now, there's two ways to go about trying to take a control arm or ball joint out of a knuckle, especially when you have the spread right there. I like to take a cold chisel and I'll tap it in there once the bolt's out. It kind of spreads those ears, like the nose of holding that. Just take it and tap it in. And once you tap that in, then you can take a pickle fork, slide it in there, try not to damage the boot or the backing plate, and then hammer that in. So then you're going to take a pry bar, and there's a spot right in here, and you're going to pull down, and that ball joint should pop right out. So you have two push pins on either side. Ours is missing back here. I'll probably put a new one in when I'm done. With the body tool, I'm going to pull that clip out. There we go. Set it aside. Do the same to the passenger fender well. So I'm going to take the rear mounting bolts off first, 10mm socket. And then I'll move to the front. I'm going to leave the center one in. I'm going to take the two outers out first. And then I can have a hand hold it. And then lower the shield. So you have two bolts holding the control arm onto that subframe. You have the forward bolt and a rear one, which has a bolt and a nut on the top. It's all 21mm, so let's take the front one out first. Set it aside. And the rear one, so 21mm wrench on the top and socket on the bottom. There's the nut, and there's the bolt. Now we just have to grab that control arm and pull forward, and then let that hockey puck style come out. So here's our new ball joint, and you can see the knurl part. So we know it presses in this way. So I'm going to put that aside. The factory one, they kind of press this in, and this kind of like gets expanded almost like a rivet head. So this needs to go out that way, and then pressed in that way, if that makes any sense. First thing we're going to do is remove our boot. It's already kind of no good, but you want to get this boot out of the way so you can actually hit it. Now, you could use a C-clamp like a ball joint press, but we're not going to do that because it's pretty wobbly already. That's why it failed. And we're going to just take our air chisel and hammer it right out. There we go. That pop was the ball joint coming right out. Now you can see that ball joint's almost out. So I'm just going to give it a little tap with the air chisel and get it the rest of the way. So you always want to take a rag, wire brush, not a grinder because you want to grind the metal. You want to make sure it's the same diameter that it needs to be for this to press through. So the knurl part goes in this way. You can see it right there. And now you're going to get your ball joint tool, get the cap and covers that measure the correct distance, and squeeze it together. So now we're going to put our lock ring in, and we have lock ring pliers. And the key to doing these is to, once you expand it, see if you can get the back side of it in first, and then let the pliers do their job on the other side. Make sure it's seated all the way down in. On both sides, make sure the steel is flush on this side, and make sure that clamp is all the way in. I just like to give it a little tap with a hammer, just to make sure it's seated all the way around. All right, looks good. Let's go install it in the vehicle. So we have to fish this in here and get it to line up at the same time. Get that bolt through, and then get the bushing in the bottom on the front one in. All right, so now I put the new control arm in, and just a little secret how I did that is I took a brass punch, because the cradle here gets pinched from that bolt being tightened up, and I just took a brass punch through the existing hole and pushed it up. Instantly fell right in. Now here's a dowel, it's a big steel dowel, and I'm going to center it easily like this so that I can make sure it stays in place like that. All right, so now we've got the rear bushing in, we got to get this front one in. And to do that, we might have to just grab this control arm and the knuckle assembly, pull it out a little bit, and line it up, just like that. Beautiful. Look at that. Now I'm going to start that front bolt. That doesn't move on us. And I'm going to put a big dowel pin in the back one, straighten that out. I'm going to grab the gun with the 21mm socket on it. Let's see if we can get that to slide right up. There we go. Then we're going to have to manipulate the top to slide that in. I think I'm going to put the ball joint in to help give it pressure, and then we can put a jack stand on this and even that out. All right, so now we can push the knuckle in, push that ball joint. I'm going to try to line that up. There we go. You might want to see if you can get a rubber mallet, not a steel hammer. I prefer to use rubber on that. I don't want to mark that new ball joint up. We're just going to kind of tap it in so it stands up. Just like that. Now we can guide it in. Okay, so now we have it started in the knuckle. Take another rubber mallet, and I'm just going to give it some taps. See how it's starting to slide in? And that ball joint has that cutout, so it's a half moon, and that's where the bolt's going to go through. So you can see the mounting hole, and it's not all the way up yet. And there it is. Put the nut on the other side. Now let's get a pole jack. If you're down on the ground, you can use a regular jack. We're going to bring the suspension up so it's road height. Now with our pole jack right below that ball joint, I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to bring the suspension up like it's ride height. Paying attention that I'm only pushing the suspension up. If I see the body move at all, I'm going to back it down. Now with that bolt through, we can put the nut on, get that started by hand. Let's get the front snugged up a little bit. 21mm socket. All right, so what I did now to get this front started, once I got that rear in, I lowered the suspension, took the pressure off that front bolt, and now it's ready to go in. I'm just going to snug it. Then I'm going to bring this back up to ride height and torque the suspension bolts. So what we have here is a front and a rear bolt on this control arm. So we're going to do the front bolt first. They consider that the one most forward, right here under the transmission. 21 millimeter socket, and the torque spec is 118 foot-pounds. So now let's snug up that rear bolt, and that's 21 millimeter socket and wrench. There we go. And the torque on that is 135 foot-pounds. Leave the wrench on there so it'll bottom out. Snug up the ball joint pinch bolt, 18 millimeter. And now we can tighten it, torque it to specs. 18 millimeter socket and wrench. That's 60 foot-pounds. I'm going to put the wrench on the back and hold it. Now we can lower our suspension. So now we can put our shield back up. I'm going to line up the front center one, 10 millimeter socket, and snug it up. And then I'm going to move to the back. Get my fender well flare parts all in. So let's put the front 3 in. Just going to start them by hand. Make sure the fender ones are lined up inside. Put the center rear one in. And then the other 2. Else we got left of the plastic push pins. Snug up the front. So now we're in the fender well, and the other side looks exactly the same. And there's 2 mounting holes. We originally had one missing, but I found one and I'm going to place it in. Push pins. One there, and then one in the front. And then do the same to the other side. Now we can put our tire back on. Just hand start the lug nuts. That's a 19 millimeter socket. We're just going to snug it up before we torque it and do it in a star pattern. Okay, now we can lower it and torque it to specs. Wheel torque is 100 foot-pounds. We're going to torque it in a star pattern. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.